Hello everyone. So, back at the Irving Park. Um, so there's a lot of noise coming from the Kent home, so I might try to avoid that area. I think it'll be okay and the wind is calm, but it's hot. It's the hottest day of the year and Marcel's happy. So I'm gonna flip it over now. Okay, so it's been a while since I've been here. This past weekend I went camping. So I'm gonna show you around here and gonna get going. So yeah, it's the hottest day of the year and I couldn't be happier. Even though it is very muggy. It's what I love. Some like it hot. Okay, so hoping everybody's well and you're taking care of yourself. Kind of thing inside. And you're enjoying the nice weather. As you can hear a plane. Okay, yeah, so it's been a little bit of a while since I did another video. To be honest, I kind of missed it. So I'm gonna try to make this one count. Well, hopefully that you guys are taking care of yourself, like I said, and enjoying this beautiful season. If you like it, if you don't, well, you got another 6 months before winter. What I want to talk about today is a little bit of a continuation of the video I did today on addiction, attachments. So I'm gonna just ask you a question here, and if you're willing to play along, why do you think people get addicted? And I would suggest you pause here because it's important for you to ask these questions to yourself and see what you think. Because I certainly don't have all the answers, and this is what I'm gonna say is what I've noticed, my opinion on things. So people get addicted, in my opinion, because there's some emptiness inside that they need to fill. This emptiness might be because we're not connected to who we are. Might be due to lack of self-love, confidence. I would say that there's probably some trauma involved, as people who don't experience trauma usually don't get into some serious addictions. So the more seriously addicted somebody is, normally, generally speaking, they experience a lot of trauma. Of course, there are some exceptions to this, as some people had a really good upbringing and they started hanging with the wrong crowd. Maybe they had a lot of money that was just given to them, and they started partying, using all sorts of drugs, and then these habits became an addiction, and then it progressed to become a full-fledged addiction and attachment. At the end, and I'm talking about addictions here as far as like a substance, but there's many other addictions, such as a desire to always want to be right. Somebody that is addicted to thinking. Some people that are addicted to toxicity, drama. These are all addictions too. Addicted to negative thinking or negative perceptions. And we can't shake it. No matter what we do, we often can't shake it. We do have to consider that not all addictions are to substances, but to perceptions, ideas, to beliefs, to people, to scenarios, routines. And again, I believe that we get addicted because there's some emptiness inside, and we're trying to fill that emptiness. Sometimes it'll be some junk food and comfort food, right? Where we really bypass feeling our emotions and letting them go. And what we do is we often suppress these emotions with the drugs that we're taking, or the comfort food, right? Such as like eating our emotions, as they say. So there's many different sides of addiction, many different things that we can be addicted to. And right now I'm running out of things that pop up in my head, because I would like to list as many, just to make sure that people that are addicted to something can hear somebody else say that it is an addiction. But hopefully people will catch on. It's your time to wake up. You'll wake up, right? It's your time to have a deep realization that that junk food that you're eating is because of an addiction, a habit that you formed to cope. Because somewhere down the road we felt the need to compensate with an outside substance, make us feel good, or to cope with a certain situation, because we were not able to cope with it. And so we use a substance, maybe a drug, to make us feel good. This beautiful little area here. So, the emptiness inside, right? And how do we face, or how do we come to terms that we're in a sense wounded, and our wounds hurt, and to numb the pain we take a substance. When we're addicted, we will often, depends on the individual of course, but we will try to find justifications. Say something like, oh, it's only one pill. Considering everything I've been through, one pill a day is not that bad. Of course, it's not everybody like that, and some will say and admit that yes, they're addicted. And they will admit that they probably need help. And in some sense, they do need help. They need to help themselves first and foremost, because unless that you really want to stop that addiction or end that addiction, you need to play an instrumental role, because no matter how much help one gets, it's not going to be enough. And that leads me to an important part of this, that there's some people that might have heard this, and it's quite important. There's many studies that have been done with rats and cocaine. I'm sure that some of you have heard about these, where rats will choose cocaine over food, over sex, over anything. And then they say, well, this proves how powerful, how addictive cocaine is. And there is some truth to that, obviously. One thing that these people that often fail to add is that they did another follow-up study. So these rats, they were alone in a cage with basically nowhere to go, no companionship, and these rats had basically nothing much to, in a sense, live for. And so you can expect that, quite understandable, that these rats were addicted because they were bored. And there is this part where they did another experiment with the cocaine, rats in a cage, but this time the rats had a strong bond with the other rats that they were in the cage with. So these rats that had support, that had a strong bond with the other rats in the cage, when they were offered cocaine, they did not choose a cocaine over food. They did not choose cocaine over companionship. They did not choose cocaine over anything. Because of these rats, they had a strong bond, and they had camaraderie. How do you say that? Yeah, you know what I mean. They were connected very well. Maybe there was some family, there was a rat family, or maybe there was close friends, I'm not sure. But these rats did not choose the drug over everything else. So if we apply that to human beings who are addicted, and we can't forget the addiction often feels a hole inside, right? So if you have a human being that has a strong bond with his community or his family, that there's very low chances that they will become addicted. So in that sense, addiction means that the person has little connection with his community or his family. So it is a loss of connection with others that often leads to an addiction. And what usually happens is that these people that get addicted to whatever drug they're taking, they will eventually create a strong bond amongst the other addicts. So all the other addicted personalities where they are connected with, they'll eventually create a strong bond between each other, which replaces the bond that most people have. So the takeaway here is that if you want to help somebody get over an addiction, I guess that one of the first steps we could do is to simply be there for them, because they probably don't have much support from their community, from their family, and they're taking their drugs to cope with this loneliness. So add that to somebody who has emptiness inside, so they're lost inside, and then they don't have a strong bond with their family or their community. That's a recipe for very strong addiction. And it's understandable when you look at it that way. Instead of seeing people as weak, as undesirable, you start seeing them in a more human way, where we start understanding that these people are just like any one of us. They want to belong to something. They want to fit in. They want to contribute. And that's an important part that we need to realize, that if we're able to start contributing to the family or the community, that safeguards us from becoming addicted, because we will be an active participant and we belong to something. Now don't get it wrong and say, well, just because I'm contributing to a society or community, that I will not ever be addicted. That's not what it means. It means that the chances are lower. So if we can find something to contribute, or a way to express yourself and to feel that you belong to something bigger than just yourself, that'll help you not get addicted to anything. And I guess I should now start saying that there's attachments involved in addictions, where we are not connected inside, and so we become addicted to something that is outside of us. You see, like when it comes to spirituality and everything, that I've been talking about, philosophy, psychology, to me are all intertwined with spirituality. That when we start into going into these paths, that we start seeing things as they are, and so we recognize that addiction is related to a lack of belonging. Addiction is connected to a lack of self-esteem and the emptiness that we feel inside. And the solution to this, obviously, for me, is to dig down deep and figure out these things. Because if we don't become aware of them, we will be, in a sense, a slave to our addictions, where they will control your life, and you will always find a reason why that you will need that drug in order to function, to cope. Sometimes it'll be a stressful situation, and then, oh my goodness, you start smoking cigarettes like a chimney. And that was me. That was me not long ago. And just a little side note here for people that are smokers. And yes, Mapacho counts, even though that we are told that Mapacho is pure and doesn't. Being addicted to Mapacho is the same as being addicted to a cigarette. That the cigarette for me was, I was noticing that I was smoking more when I was sad, when I was depressed. And also, very, very important to take note of this is that when our heart hurts. So if we have a heartbreak, or if we just heard some bad news, we just finished breaking up with someone, that for me, I went and smoked like a chimney, because I was trying to push down the emotions, as tobacco often pushes down the feelings, so it suppresses these emotions that we are feeling. So if you see yourself as smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day, I believe that there's some suppression going on, that there's emotions that you don't want to feel, and you're pushing them down. And what that creates is, like I've said in a couple of videos, is that we have stuff under the rug. We will eventually have to deal with these things if we want to be free. We'll have to eventually deal with these things. And if we keep on pushing these feelings down with a cigarette and suppressing them, or with a drug, it's the same thing. We're just adding more stuff to under the rug. And that eventually, what happens with this also is it creates preoccupations. So because we did not deal with these things, it operates in the background, a preoccupied mind that is, in a sense, always running. And if we're preoccupied, so we won't be able to deal as well as with a new situation at hand, because we are preoccupied, because of the undealt trauma or feelings that we have not felt, because we haven't dealt with these things. It'll prevent us from being in the present moment. It prevents us from seeing things clearly. So we're occupied before we're occupied, preoccupied, right? And it's always running in the background, as I said. So no wonder that we have, let's say, bad ideas, or we don't think clearly, or we're not seeing things as they are. Well, because of the preoccupation basically is running, and we're seeing through the lens of our preoccupation, or the wound, right? The preoccupation is the same thing as the wound. So yeah, that's why for me, like, the shadow work is essential, because the shadow work eventually deals with that preoccupation, with that trauma, with the thing that is bugging us. So yeah, our preoccupied mind is unable to really see things clearly, and we are not functioning at capacity. And so, like, every decision that we will take will not be sound, will not be a sound decision. It'll be a decision based on a preoccupied mind. And this also shows that we're not at peace. And when we're not at peace, how are we able to clear the waters, to see clearly? So it is, as I said, hot. At the beginning of the video, I said how hot it is. Even though I'm in the shade here, I'm still sweating. And I think I'm gonna just get going and wrap up this video. I think I've said what I wanted to say for the most part. So now I'll just end it lightly. I'll pick up this tripod and I'll push it down. And take care of this so I can the selfie stick. Sorry about the shaking, but it's done. All right. So there's a horsefly after me, and that's another reason why I want to take off. These things, they sting so bad. One of the few things I don't like about summertime is horseflies. So do you see how, like, what I often talk about is always relevant to, so the topics are all connected, right? And for me, that is like, we need to take things as they are thrown at us and stop putting it under the rug and deal with the trauma, the wounds. So if you have an infection, oh, look at that little groundhog. Yeah, hi. Where are you going? Ah. So yeah, like, if we want to be able to be free, we're gonna have to deal with our preoccupied mind, with our coping mechanisms that often are in the form of addictions, attachments. And that takes a whole lot of honesty. It takes a very dedicated individual to look in the mirror and say that, well, I've been doing this to myself all along. And then we can stop blaming the world, stop blaming our family, stop blaming government, stop blaming God, or maybe you'll blame Satan. Satan is behind all this. Right, Christians. Oh my goodness. The scapegoating is real. The Satan within you is creating all this. That's a little bit more the truth than just simply finding somebody to throw under the bus. And if it's somebody else, well, how do we change the situation? Is if we have a bunch of wounds and the one responsible is whoever we decide to blame, and they have power over us. And unless these people do something about it, we will be wounded forever. So the person that did the trauma needs to do the healing. And how many people who are abusive eventually heal? How many people that are abusive actually end up being the one that heals us? Well, I'm almost 50 years old, and I've never encountered that or heard about that before. So, not to say it's impossible, but I'm going to say it's very unlikely. But if we start saying that, hey, that toxic relationship that I got in and I experienced some trauma, I'm the one that got myself into that. I'm the one that chose that narcissistic abuser, and I need to rectify what is inside of me that attracted that narcissistic abuser. Now you're talking. So what is that wound inside? What beliefs do you have that lead you to be attracted to abusers? Perhaps because you feel that you deserve to be treated this way, and that's why you're going for these toxic types. But that's like a sort of drug, right? Some people are addicted, or not addicted. Some people are attracted to toxicity. I've heard many people say this, where they're like, oh, the more toxic somebody is, the more I'm going to stay in that relationship. Now, I'm not saying everybody's like this, but I've heard it way too many times in order for it to be untrue. And these same people, they will also say that if somebody is caring, kind, that they will end that relationship. Because it's not exciting enough. So these people that are attracting toxic relationships are looking for excitement. Okay. And if we keep on going back and forth to toxic types, we're falling into some habits where we're stuck in a loop, a karmic loop, where unless that we break it, is what we're going to keep on doing. So, breaking the habit, breaking the loop. There, and when I say karma, I want you to understand that karma has to do with some actions in the past, and all of this life is karma trying to fix itself in a sense, and it's all in the form of cookie trails, puzzle pieces. So these cookie trails are all part of the puzzle that shows us what's going on and why we are addicted. And if we can become calm, at peace, and heal, then we can start seeing things as they are and why we are addicted, why we're attached, why we're stuck in belief systems. So the spirituality is something that sets us free. By exploring these things, we can set ourselves free by exploring these things. Okay, so I'm back and there's a lot of noise, so I'm going to say I love you. I wish you all the best. I wish you healing. Hope you find your self-worth. Hope you're enjoying this beautiful day just as I am. And until next time.